Predictions. I do not have a crystal ball, but if I were to put my hat on the line, what would my predictions be for the next 5 years? For the UK, for the economy, I think that given, you may have seen in previous videos, our demographic, 18-year-olds coming into the workforce, the challenges on housing, public services, labour, that's all going to fuel an increase. And there's, in one of our newsletters, we speak about the undersupply of housing. It's such a broad, I think, a blunt assessment of a really challenging issue. We say that, net the UK needs 300,000 houses a year. The fact of the matter is that so much of the housing supply is for the top 5% or the top 10%. No one's wanting to build affordable housing on small margins. It's all luxury. It's all these 3.5, 4-bed, tiny detached houses. They're rubbish, but that's where all the supply is. So we're not actually addressing the issue here. The blunt measure of saying we need 300,000 homes a year for the next 10 years. There's a quiet voice, Mr. Ian Mulhern of the Tony Blair Institute, has highlighted that this blunt measurement makes no assessment of the net supply, which is really the critical factor. Turning a house like this into maybe 3 flats, net gain is 2 houses there. That's not assessed. All these measurements look at are new homes coming out the ground, and it doesn't look at repurposing office buildings, dividing houses into flats, all that sort of thing. And that's really critical. So a bit more information I think is needed there to get an assessment of housing. But back to the question on predictions, is housing going to go up? Yes, of course it is. I'm expecting rates to come up. We've seen inflation get to 3.2%, 3.1% in the UK in September. Just over in the States, they're north of 5%. So there's going to be significant inflation there that's really challenging. For context, if you're privileged enough to earn £50,000 a year, if you don't earn £52,000 next year, you've lost money. That's the fact. In terms of predictions for the market, I think there's going to be a much bigger push into the repurposing. It's old news. Planning laws have been relaxed in that regard, permit developments extended. In terms of the lettings market, it's hot right now. Everywhere I'm hearing from, South Wales, South West, London, properties are just flying off as we go back to work and life returns to an almost normal. Over the next 5-10 years, with that glut of 18-year-olds coming of age, going to university, getting jobs, no longer living with mum and dad, that pressure is just going to be even more fueled. So in the background, for the last few years, we've been hearing about this build to rent, keeping your eye on companies like your Blackstones over in the States, also in the UK, but predominantly over in the States. They're creating a massive 2-tier system of those that own property and those that rent property. And I just think that divide is going to grow and grow and grow. What does that mean for individuals, for landlords? The smaller mum and dad, mom and pop landlords, I think they're going to be squeezed out. There is a massive push towards green. We're seeing that trickle down to buy-to-let lenders. Traditionally, it was for the big Barclay Homes, Barratt Homes, huge investment portfolios, borrowing millions and millions. My criticism of that is that when you're borrowing 200 million, 0.2% saving can tangibly be reinvested into upgrading your building. When you're borrowing £100,000, 0.2% saving is a couple of £100. What's that going to go on in terms of upkeep, refurbishment, upgrading these maybe older redundant properties? It's really difficult to repurpose a 1910 Victorian terrace in the back streets of Port Talbot, believe me. So yes, it's that whole green push. I'm expecting to see much more there. At the moment, we're seeing lenders give discounts for EPC ratings of C and above. Will that increase to Bs or As? That's a regulatory prediction for the market that I think you can only tackle by being bigger. If you have 2, 3, 4 buy-to-lets, the profit from those buy-to-lets is going to almost absorb itself in the general maintenance and upkeep and voids of the portfolio, let alone things like insulating 100-year-old brick walls. So yeah, that's what can we do there proactively to tackle that challenge? I think it's scale, grow the portfolio, and then have substantial sums or more sums to reinvest and actually upgrade these units, or be left behind, unfortunately, or you'll be paying the price, and maybe there's a penalty rate for finance where we've got these green loans. Maybe that will become the norm at 2-3% as an example. Who knows where interest rates will be in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, but maybe non-green loans, you're going to be looking at 4-5%, and there's going to be that penalty charge attached there. So who knows? I think it's a really interesting space and something that we definitely need to be on top of as landlords.